Part 1. The racist principal thinks he's untouchable. Westbrook Academy, a school for the elite, but not for everyone. Westbrook Academy was one of the most prestigious private high schools in the state, a place of excellence, wealth, and privilege. Politicians' children walked these halls. Future CEOs sat in these classrooms. Generations of legacy students ensured the school's reputation remained untarnished. But beneath the surface, Westbrook had a dirty secret, one that few dared to speak about. Racism wasn't written in the school's policies, but it was woven into its culture, and the man responsible for keeping it that way, Principal Sterling, the man behind the system. For over 20 years, Sterling had run Westbrook with an iron grip. To the wealthy white families, he was a guardian of tradition. To the black and minority students, he was an immovable wall, one that blocked opportunities, crushed potential, and ensured they never got too far. Black students rarely got leadership roles. Their complaints were dismissed, their achievements overlooked. And whenever someone dared to challenge the system, they mysteriously disappeared, expelled, transferred, or simply handled. Sterling knew exactly what he was doing, and he was proud of it. Enter Jordan Carter, the one student Sterling can't break. But this year, the Sterling had a problem, a real problem, a student he couldn't silence. Jordan Carter, a straight-A student, captain of the debate team, a leader in the student council. Jordan wasn't just good, he was exceptional, and he had earned Westbrook's top academic scholarship. The problem? Jordan was black, and Sterling wasn't about to let a black student become the face of Westbrook's success. The first blow. Jordan's scholarship disappears. One afternoon, Jordan received an email. It was from the school administration. Subject: scholarship status update. He opened it, with eyes scanning the screen. Then his stomach dropped. We regret to inform you that your application for the Westbrook Academic Excellence Scholarship has been denied. Unfortunately, you no longer meet the necessary requirements. What? Jordan blinked. There had to be a mistake. He met every single requirement. Top grades? Check. Extracurricular involvement? Check. Glowing recommendations? Check. So why was he being denied? Something wasn't right, and he had a gut feeling who was behind it. Part 2. Principal Sterling thinks he's untouchable, but he just made a big mistake. Jordan refuses to back down, and that annoys Sterling. Jordan knew this wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an administrative error. It wasn't unfortunate news. It was deliberate. And Principal Sterling thought he could get away with it. Not today. Jordan marched straight to the administration office, gripping a copy of the email in his hand. At the front desk, the school secretary, Mrs. Reynolds, was typing something on her computer. She barely looked up when Jordan approached. I need to speak with Principal Sterling, now. Mrs. Reynolds finally looked at him. Her lips pressed together in something between annoyance and amusement. Students didn't demand to see Principal Sterling, especially not students like Jordan. The principal is very busy, Jordan. Maybe you should. Jordan cut her off. It's about my scholarship. That made her pause. Her fingers hesitated over the keyboard. Then, with a small sigh, she picked up the phone and dialed. Jordan stood there, heart pounding, as she whispered into the receiver. Finally, she hung up and gestured toward the heavy wooden door behind her. Go ahead, but don't take too long. Oh, this wouldn't take long. Jordan pushed open the door. Principal Sterling, smug, arrogant, and ready to play games. The office smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Sterling sat behind his oversized oak desk, fingers laced together, a smug expression on his face, like he had been expecting Jordan, like this was all part of his plan. "Mr. Carter," Sterling said smoothly, gesturing toward the chair across from him, "please have a seat." Jordan didn't sit. He dropped the printed email onto Sterling's desk. "Explain this." Sterling barely glanced at the paper. He leaned back, tilting his head with an expression of fake concern. "Ah, your scholarship. Unfortunate, truly." Jordan's hands clenched at his sides. "You revoked it." Sterling sighed, shaking his head like a disappointed father. "Jordan, the scholarship is a privilege, not a right." Jordan's jaw tightened. "I earned that scholarship. My grades, my test scores, my extracurriculars." Sterling lifted a hand, silencing him. "Yes, yes, impressive achievements. But scholarships are also about character." There it was, the real reason. Jordan knew what Sterling meant. Character was just another word for compliance, for knowing your place. And Jordan Carter, he wasn't the kind of black kid who stayed quiet. Sterling makes a mistake. He underestimates Jordan. Sterling sighed dramatically, tapping his fingers against the desk. "You've always been outspoken, Jordan, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But colleges want students who fit their culture. Translation? You don't fit the mold. You're too confident, too smart, too unwilling to accept less." Jordan stared at him, pulse steady. "So you took my scholarship because I don't fit?" Sterling gave a slow, condescending smile. "I didn't take anything, Jordan. The school board made the final decision. My hands are tied." A lie, and Jordan knew it. Jordan exhaled sharply, shaking his head. "You think I'm just gonna let this slide?" Sterling chuckled. "I think you'll realize that fighting this will only make things worse for you." Threat, a direct one, but Jordan, he wasn't scared. He leaned in slightly, meeting Sterling's eyes. "You're gonna regret this." And Sterling, for the first time, looked worried. Part 3, Jordan strikes back and Principal Sterling doesn't see it coming. Jordan refuses to play by their rules. Jordan stormed out of Sterling's office, his heart pounding. They wanted him to accept defeat. They wanted him to walk away. But that wasn't going to happen. Sterling thought Jordan would get angry, maybe complain to a teacher, maybe rant on social media. But Jordan Carter, he played smarter. He didn't waste time. Step 1, gather evidence. Jordan pulled out his phone and scrolled through his emails. If they're gonna play dirty, I'm gonna play smarter. He found what he was looking for, the official scholarship confirmation letter. Signed, stamped, approved. A legal agreement, one that Sterling couldn't just erase. Step 2, get back up. Jordan didn't need to fight this alone. He needed people who couldn't be ignored. And he knew exactly where to start. The unlikely allies. Jordan calls for reinforcements. Jordan walks straight into the school's journalism club. Inside, students were huddled around computers, editing articles for the school's website. At the center of it all, Zoe Patel, editor-in-chief, the most fearless reporter at Lincoln High, and someone who absolutely loved exposing injustice. Zoe looked up when Jordan entered. "Carter, you look pissed. That means you have a story." Jordan slid the printed email onto her desk. "They revoked my scholarship." Zoe's eyes scanned the paper. Then she grabbed her phone and checked the school's website. After a few seconds, she exhaled sharply. "Let me guess. No official announcement. No transparency. Just gone." Jordan nodded. Sterling wants to bury this. I need your help to make sure he can't. Zoe's eyes lit up. She lived for stories like this, exposing the corruption, and Sterling never saw it coming. The next morning, the Lincoln High website had a new article. Lincoln High's top student loses scholarship under mysterious circumstances. Was it personal? The article included Jordan's original scholarship acceptance letter, a timeline of events leading up to the sudden revocation, anonymous statements from other students who had mysteriously lost their scholarships in the past. The headline spread like wildfire. Students shared it, parents saw it, and by lunchtime, the local news had picked it up. Jordan sat in the cafeteria, watching as students scrolled through their phones, whispering about the scandal. Yo, did you see this? Sterling just erased this kid's future like it was nothing. If they did this to Carter, how many others have they screwed over? Someone needs to take that guy down. Jordan smirked. This was just the beginning. Part 4, Principal Sterling tries to fight back, but Jordan is 2 steps ahead. Sterling sees the headlines, and he's furious. Principal Sterling sat in his office, gripping his phone so tightly his knuckles turned white. The article was everywhere. It wasn't just a school rumor anymore. Lincoln High student stripped of scholarship without explanation. Discrimination at play. Principal under fire for unjust scholarship revocations. Community demands answers. Was Jordan Carter targeted? Parents were calling. The school board was emailing. Even the district superintendent had left a voicemail. Sterling, this is a disaster. Fix it now. Sterling gritted his teeth. Jordan Carter thought he could challenge him. He thought some silly high school article would take him down. Fine. Sterling wasn't going to back down without a fight. Sterling tries to control the damage, but it backfires. By lunchtime, Sterling stormed into the journalism club's room. His glare locked onto Zoe. Take it down. Now. Zoe didn't flinch. Sorry, Principal Sterling. We report facts. Sterling's face darkened. You don't have permission to post defamatory content about school administration. Zoe smirked. Funny, because freedom of the press says otherwise. Sterling clenched his fists. He wanted to shut this down. Right now, but there was a problem. The article wasn't just on the school website anymore. Zoe had already submitted it to the Lincoln Gazette, the city's local news outlet. The story was out. Sterling couldn't erase it, and worse, the news station was already asking for an interview with Jordan. Jordan's next move, the trap is set. Jordan sat back in his chair, arms crossed, watching as Sterling fumbled. He wasn't done yet. He wanted Sterling to sweat, to feel powerless, to know that his time was running out. And then Jordan pulled out his final weapon. Attention students. The scholarship issue at Lincoln High will be addressed at a mandatory school assembly tomorrow morning. The announcement was made over the intercom. Sterling thought he could spin this in his favor. He thought he could shut Jordan down in front of everyone. But what he didn't know, Jordan had one last trick up his sleeve. Part 5, the assembly. Sterling thinks he's won, but Jordan flips the script. The auditorium is packed. Everyone wants answers. The next morning, the entire student body and faculty gathered in the auditorium. The energy was electric. Sterling stood on stage, gripping the microphone, forcing a composed expression. He had a plan. Good morning, students, Sterling started, his voice steady. There's been a law of misinformation spreading regarding our scholarship program. I want to set the record straight. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Students exchanged looks. Nobody trusted him. Sterling tries to spin the narrative. But Jordan knows better. Our scholarship selection process is based on merit, Sterling continued. No student was unfairly removed. Mistakes happen, but there was no discrimination involved. Boo, the students weren't buying it. Neither was the faculty. And then Jordan stood up. Time to finish this. Jordan walks on stage and drops the final bomb. So if there was no discrimination, Jordan said, stepping up to the microphone, why did every black student lose their scholarship while all the white students kept theirs? The room went dead silent. Sterling paled. He opened his mouth, but Jordan wasn't finished. Actually, Jordan smirked. Let's see what the school board has to say about that. The projector screen behind them flickered to life. An email appeared from Sterling himself. Jordan had printed it out, and now everyone could see it. The email that ends Sterling's career. From Principal Sterling to Scholarship Committee, subject, scholarship adjustments. Make sure priority scholarships remain with students who reflect the school's image. We need to ensure we're supporting those who align with Lincoln High's core values. Silence. Then, gasps. And finally, anger. Faculty members whispered. Students started shouting. Even the teachers looked disgusted. What does that even mean? So we're not part of the school's image because we're black? He's done. Sterling's face went red. This is taken out of context, but it was too late. The board members in attendance had seen enough. Part 6, The Fall of Principal Sterling. No way out. The school board speaks, and it's not looking good for Sterling. The auditorium erupted. Sterling's face drained of color. The school board members whispered among themselves. Students shouted in disbelief. So you're saying we don't fit your image, huh? What kind of school values are those? This isn't just a mistake. It's racism. Sterling held up his hands, desperate to regain control. Everyone, please, let's not jump to conclusions. This is just a misunderstanding. But nobody was buying it. The email was right there. The proof was undeniable. Jordan drops another bombshell. The investigation has already started. Misunderstanding, Jordan called, shaking his head. That's funny because the Lincoln High Alumni Association didn't think so. Sterling froze. His breath hitched. Jordan reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. 2 days ago, I sent your email to our biggest donors and the district superintendent. Oh, and by the way, Jordan turned the screen toward the crowd. The superintendent responded. Another email appeared on the screen from Office of Superintendent Richards to Jordan Thomas. Subject, urgent matter regarding Lincoln High. This situation is unacceptable. We are launching a formal investigation into Principal Sterling's actions. Further steps will be taken immediately. Silence. Then, boom! The crowd exploded. Students clapped, cheered, even stood up to chant, "Pack your bags, pack your bags." Sterling panics, but he can't escape karma. Sterling's hands started shaking. He turned to the school board, but they were already glaring at him. "This is ridiculous," he snapped. "You can't fire me over this." But before he could finish, Superintendent Richards himself walked into the auditorium. A hush fell over the crowd. "Principal Sterling," Richards said, voice like steel, "pack your things. You're done." Sterling opened his mouth, but no words came out. It was over. No excuses. No way to spin it. He had played the game and lost. Part 7, Justice Served. A new chapter begins. Principal Sterling faces the consequences. The entire auditorium watched in stunned silence. Sterling stood there, frozen, his career crumbling before his eyes. Superintendent Richards didn't hesitate. You are relieved of your duties, effective immediately. Security will escort you to collect your belongings. Sterling's mouth opened, then closed. He looked around, desperate for support, but none came. Even the teachers, the ones who once stood by him, refused to meet his gaze. His power was gone. "Pack your bags! Pack your bag!" The students chanted louder, the entire auditorium erupting in celebration. Sterling turned red with rage, but he had no choice. Security officers stepped forward, motioning for him to leave. He clenched his fists, but he wasn't stupid enough to resist. With his head hung low, he walked out of the auditorium. His reign was officially over, and karma had just been served. Jordan gets the last word. As the doors slammed shut behind Sterling, all eyes turned to Jordan. He walked up to the microphone, clearing his throat. "So, I think it's safe to say we need a new principal." Laughter and applause filled the air. "But on a serious note," Jordan continued, "this wasn't just about me. This was about all of us, about making sure this school stands for something better." The students clapped, nodding in agreement. Jordan looked over at his teammates. "Lincoln High is our school, and we're not going anywhere." The entire basketball team stood up, raising their fists in solidarity. A new era had begun. One final twist. Jordan gets an unexpected opportunity. Later that evening, Jordan's phone buzzed. An unknown number. He hesitated, then picked up. "Jordan Thomas? This is Coach Reynolds from Duke University." Jordan's heart nearly stopped. "Duke, one of the top basketball programs in the country. We saw how you handled yourself today. We like leaders on and off the court. How would you feel about a scholarship?" Jordan nearly dropped his phone. This wasn't just a victory. This was destiny. The final lesson. Karma always comes full circle. As Jordan stood outside Lincoln High, looking up at the school that had shaped him, he knew one thing for sure. Sterling thought he could erase him. Instead, he had made Jordan stronger. And in the end, justice had been served. You can't stop what's meant to be. The end. Final takeaways. Racism and discrimination never go unchecked. Truth always finds a way out. When you stand up for what's right, you inspire change beyond yourself. Karma doesn't miss. Those who abuse power will always face the consequences. Hard work and integrity will always take you further than hate ever could.